Welcome to Breaking the Ice. We're Patel, Greene & Associates, and we're here to tell stories about our three favorite things: business, culture, and engineering. Let's get to it. Coming up, we've got this culture of growth, and we've got a plan, and we fit into it.
I've never even had a hint from any of my original guys to want to do anything else. There was an instant sort of professionalism upgrade.
We've got the blueprint for how we want future acquisitions to go, that's for sure. All right, well, welcome back to PGA's Breaking the Ice podcast. This episode, we're welcoming Kevin Schweikhart. He's our Facilities Preservation Group leader. And we have an interesting story to share with you all. We're going to talk about acquisitions. Kevin came to be at PGA through an acquisition, so we're going to step through the origin of that process that we walk through, including the integration, we're pretty much through at this point, I think, and share a little bit about what Kevin's group does as well. So let's jump right into it. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
So you had a company called Protective Coating Solutions.
Yes.
You are a coatings expert, among other things, and we came to work with you on DOT bridge painting projects. A lot of folks ask, how did we come to find out about you and have this acquisition come to pass? Because it does seem unique. It's certainly fascinating, but the answer is actually quite simple. You work on bridge painting jobs, we work on bridge painting jobs. So why don't you step back into time a little bit, talk a little bit about how you came to know PGA through the wonderful experience of Chris Cromwell, and we'll kind of take it from there and kind of step through how that went getting there.
Well, as you said, bridge painting is something that we do, and we've been doing for, I guess, 15, 20 years prior to coming to PGA. And just so happened that we both were on the same contract with the same client. And we had previously done condition assessment reports for all. There was a group of bridges, lots of, probably 10 different structures in the Orlando area. And you guys happened to be the engineer of record. And our job was to provide the coating system design for all of these bridges. So got to collaborate with Chris actually during COVID, so we had a combination of in-person and lots of phone calls, lots of emails. And we ultimately designed a really nice package that went out to industry and got bid and actually got built. We're real proud of it. But during that time, I found an affiliation or a connection to Chris that led me to tell Chris that, I was getting a little over the back of the house stuff, and I really wanted to do more technical stuff, and that I might entertain an idea of acquisition. And that's when he says, I'll make a call, and then next thing I know, you and I are communicating, and I guess it took about a year after we realized that the dating should turn into a marriage. But
you kind of shared your perspective on how that got started. So here's what it looked like on the PGA side. Chris Cromwell comes and says, "Hey, I've been working with this guy, Kevin Schweikhart, and I think you might want to sell his company." And we all said, "Who?" But tell us more. So it's kind of an insight into the PGA mindset of we want to grow. We had our strategic plan, and part of that strategic plan was diversifying our client base. So we talked about you working for DOT, and certainly you've got a lot of work and whatever portfolio resume for DOT projects, but, come to find out, or we did come to find out anyway in talking to you, that you've got a whole lot of private clients as well. So Chris brings that to us. And of course, it goes a long way with who's bringing the information as well. So we knew Chris has, a great judge of character. He wouldn't be bringing this to us if he hadn't thought through it and decided, if this were to come to pass, he would be happy to stand behind it, So with Chris bringing it, we're like, okay, well, I'm not sure who this person is or what he does at the point, at that point in time, but let's definitely have a discussion because this definitely fits into our strategic plan. So let's set it up and and go meet Kevin and see where this goes. And yeah, so we went over to your neck of the woods over in Carrollwood, had lunch and got to know a little bit more about what you did. You want to tell a little bit more about that meeting? I've got my memories and recollection of that meeting, but you first.
Yeah, I think somebody set up the meeting, and the idea was to bring all of the different, key players. I think you brought Joe and Chris was there, and of course this was just a little bit post COVID, so we actually could go to a restaurant and sit outside.
Yes, we went definitely outside. Yes,
we went to Glory Days, which is one of my favorite watering holes, and it was an excellent meeting. I do remember you coming to the office that we had to clean up a little bit because it was very construction office, and I think Dave, one of my key guys, had to sweep. I told him, I says,
you certainly overestimated how much I care about that sort of thing. But yes.
Good news. Yeah, good news that he didn't care, and then. But it was a great lunch. Got to collaborate and meet Joe. I mean, obviously, what I realized is that there was a deeper bench than Chris. There was way more Chris's at your company.
And the Joe you're referring to is Joe 1.
Joe
1.
Yes.
It's Joe Lasaria.
Yes. And structures. So you came at me with all of these powerful structures, guys, which I love bridge structures. Almost as much as I like buildings, but. And that was what I realized, that there was just an interest in our discipline, and then of course to be able to explain to you that we have other markets that we do work in using the same guys, cross training all my people into do bridges to buildings, or tanks or pipelines,
like that. Tanks that hold liquid, not tanks that shoot missiles.
Exactly. Not the tanks.
You could coat those though.
Correct.
That would be a cool project, actually.
Or vessels, they call them.
Yes,
storage vessels. Yeah, instead of tanks.
What I remember about that meeting is, a lot of that stuff was very new to me. Chris had been working with you on that stuff, so he had an understanding of it. I just really hadn't at the time. I've learned a lot since then, but at the time, it wasn't something I knew a lot about. And you gave us a lot of information that day. You've got a lot of stories, and what came across to me loud and clear, which made me very positive about moving forward on the deal, is Kevin really, really loves what he does. He really loves what he does. And we talked about how, the same things you shared with Chris about maybe I'm tired of doing a lot of this back office stuff, and, I'd like to grow, but not sure I want to deal with what comes along with that kind of thing. And so you shared some of that with us as well. And we talked through those things. And hopefully you recall that we were, try to be very transparent about it too. Like, hey, Kevin, you could just hire some admin folks and you could do this. Like, our goal of being transparent and laying on the table is that, we want to understand fully what your goals would be in an acquisition, which I think, now again, we're having this podcast about the acquisition process and integration, all those things, like we're experts. We are not. We've done one. You're it. Not that we haven't tried a few since then, but you were the first. You were our first foray into that, and what I've come to learn is we were very fortunate for the first one to go. So, I will say it was meant to be, I think. And so, but, some of those things I think are just common sense. And if you have respect for other people and it's not all about the business, it's more about making connection with people, those questions become obvious. We didn't want you to get to the other end of it and feel, duped, or we certainly didn't want to get to the other end and feel like, wow, I wish I would have asked more questions about what his goals were in this acquisition. So anyway, I think we both did a good job early on of laying everything out on the table and being honest with each other. Being willing to, walk away from the deal if it didn't feel right. But, we never got there. It kind of felt good the whole time. And obviously there's some back and forth that goes with that sort of thing. But when you do it in good faith and transparently, then
There's
You can get there.
exactly. There's no surprises. Well, that was the other thing is that you were open to at the time. We didn't have a Carrollwood office, and the original plan was when my lease was up that we would come to telecom, and when I asked, hey, can we stay over here, it became an option. Which if there was no hard line of no, you have to bring all of your people over to this side of the town, which was great, and that made it nice too to go from it was actually an upgrade. I've never had an office that nice over the years, so and to me the success of the acquisition is that I've never even had a hint from any of my original guys to want to do anything else. We've molded well, and I think it had a lot to do with you and I both were concerned about the culture, making sure that our cultures overlapped. And I think when you guys invited us, said, hey, we like the idea of this. Let's, we have these get-togethers at PGA. We have these happy hours, and why don't you bring everybody over? And of course, you say free food to my guys, and they generally will go. And that it actually turned into a lot of fun afternoon. I mean, we played ping pong it was so what I realized is that all the guys were, of course I was a little bit concerned initially because they would think like, what's going to happen when we enter this new relationship?
Right.
They knew that their job was secure with me. And once they realized that we were going to bolt on, I think that was the word you would tell me. This is a bolt on. And one of the things I was concerned about is, are you going to want me to just pursue one discipline? Because what we enjoy doing, and I enjoy personally, is pursuing lots of disciplines. I like to have, diversity in our skill set is important because you don't want to be pigeonholed into one particular discipline. And I'd use that philosophy to stay sort of recession proof. When one industry was down, I would pursue another discipline, whether it be window testing or construction quality assurance. That we like to do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of the ability to utilize the in-house admin skills that you guys had to be able to scale up, in whatever direction the industry could take us.
Yeah, I think we talked about strategic planning. We've talked about that on other podcast episodes, and it comes into play here because we have the plan and we know that we want to get outside and again diversify our client base. That played a big role in driving our decision to push ahead and really work to make it work, make the acquisition work. Because once we met and talked, we learned, okay, Kevin's not just about bridge painting. It is the window testing. It is the building envelope. And not only that, but he's got this vision for, expanding that even further. So you talked about culture. So you had a culture of growth. You were just looking for some help to get there. We've got this culture of growth, and we got a plan, and you fit into it. I think we shared the strategic plan with you. And so again, just that transparency and making sure that our visions are aligned, got that out of the way early. Then it's just, the money part, and you figure the money part out, and then you go and build something together, which is what we're doing.
Yes.
The happy hour is a good idea. Normally, I think the way these things go, the employees don't find out until like the very, very end. It's kind of an unfortunate circumstance of acquisitions typically, especially if you've got, you only had like a handful of folks and you'd known them for a long time. So you felt comfortable bringing them in a little earlier than,
right,
like I said, these things normally happen, which was great. It's better that way if you can do it. And I think Mark McCarthy went to school with our Mark Dunn at Zephyr Hills High School or whatever. So that was kind of a small world moment. But familiar faces, I think that made it easier. But having you guys over for that barbecue and playing ping pong. Did you and I play ping pong together?
Yes.
How did that go?
I didn't win.
Okay.
But I didn't have enough practice. If I'd known that there was going to be a ping pong table, I probably would have practiced.
Next time. We need to get that ping
Probably
pong
would
table
develop,
back out.
I still want a rematch.
You're on. Okay. So so February of 2022, close the deal. And like you said, we left you guys over in Carrollwood. You already had a lease going, and it was kind of a sweetheart deal. So that part was a no-brainer anyway, like leaving you guys over in Carrollwood in the office that you had. I'm not sure we knew exactly what we did. I think when we talked, we thought, maybe eventually we'll move, because integration, we knew that was going to be important to integrate you guys in the team and not leave you out there by yourselves the whole time. And it was a small office. There really was no room for anybody, like any of our folks to work in there. So we just said, okay, that's fine. But when that lease is up, maybe we'll bring you over to telecom, I think was the thought at the time. But whatever you had left on that thing, like a year or two.
A year, yeah.
Just
I
a
think it
year?
was, a little over a year.
Dang, we've been in the Carroll office that long, huh?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I guess in just a year, when it was time to figure out what we were going to do, again, our strategic plan for growth plays a part here, because by the time we were like pretty full in our Temple Terrace office, and weren't even sure we would have room for you guys to begin with. So then the decision was, okay, well, what do we do? So it worked out between you guys already kind of have been over there for a long time and living over there, at least you lived over there, and other folks that were making I think it's 45 minutes to get the 10 miles from West Tampa over to Temple Terrace. We just said, we'll just open up an office over in Carrollwood. So that went over really well internally, and it allowed us to achieve the goal of having your folks work in the same office as our PGA folks, and that's worked out great. And that is a great office.
It's a great location.
Yeah,
it really is.
So let's talk a little bit more about integration. Maybe share some of your reflections on kind of the early part of that. Getting used to this isn't PCS anymore. We're calling it PCS, a PGA. That whole deal that you kind of see folks go through. So start with that.
Well, we had the brand crossover initially, with all of our letterheads said PGA, PCS, because people, they get used to that initialism, and that went well because they started to recognize PGA, and then you slowly eliminate it. It sort of reminds me of when we decided to change my dog's name after a year. My wife decided she didn't like that particular dog's name, so we had to change the dog's name. But slowly, when we found the new dog's name, we would have to say both of them.
You changed the dog's name from PCS to PGA?
No, that would have been coincidence, though. That would have been cool. But my point is, when you change the name, you sort of give them both, and then you slowly make the old name a little smaller and less prominent, and then next thing you know, they don't remember the old name, which it was good, because even though I had a brand recognition, I didn't have the brand recognition that PGA has, and clearly we have some excellent branding that so the clients, they were used to that. Actually, my business model prior to that, I would sub to a lot of people, so many times people knew of us as niche folks that were working for somebody else, and we really didn't have any permanent home, which that was the selling point. We have a permanent home. We have actually more stability now. Yep. We have company trucks with the logos on them, versus my guys driving their personal vehicles on the job sites. So there was an instant sort of professionalism upgrade that I was able to, parlay into the additional fee that they had to pay.
Okay, so integration, good experience, but it's there's things to work through, right? That's a transition for you. So maybe share a little bit, and be as open as you'd like. Transition from, hey, the buck stops here, I make all the decisions, to, okay, I don't own the company anymore. I'm the group leader, so still have authority over my guys and my groups and my clients, but I'm part of a bigger team now.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, I don't feel like I've lost a lot of technical authority.
Sure.
I liked the internal process of the QC, because really you want to produce a quality product that, doesn't have any technical flaws. And with the overlap of what PGA does internally, it actually made me more comfortable, to have that. So in essence, I wasn't having to give up, technical authority or answer to somebody else that, say, wanted to see a different perspective. It really has never been that. You've actually, the transparent aspect of it is a bolt-on. We don't have anybody with your discipline and your technical knowledge, but what you have is you have the ability to frame the things that we do in a more, PGA technical package, which improved our work product, and now it's enabled us to have this foundation to scale. And as we keep growing disciplines, meaning my people are getting more certifications in different disciplines, it's going to be easier to scale from that foundation now that we're old hat with what we need to do at PGA now. So it's and it never really was a lot of difficult, I'm surprised you haven't acquired more people like me.
Hasn't been for lack of trying, I assure you. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that, and I agree. I mean, at this point, we're just one try to be as well oiled as we can machine. It's been nice to see, like, we've got Mark into our leadership and training program, because obviously we see a lot of potential and leadership, potential for him in the future as well. I take a lot of pride in it, but it makes me happy, certainly, to see that the integration has been so successful that, that Mark sees,
Right.
career future here, and not so that's great. And we can consider it a successful integration for sure.
Because of how you promote, and the culture is to have a lot of time with each other. You get to know the people very well, and it doesn't just feel like a job. You actually have, people that become your friends, and
Right.
and it's easy to collaborate or tell people about your discipline, which is what we always do constantly, because it's sometimes hard to describe the things that we actually do, and but once they learn, that's why I've always enjoyed working for technical engineers, is that once you explain the reason for what we do, it's easy for them to, cross sell that as well. And that's what I love about having different disciplines that we overlap with, is you can cross sell to them, and then they become more advocates for what you do, and introduce you to various different people that they do business with. And then you realize how small the industry actually is,
Exactly.
Yeah, and even when my portion of work for DOT work was probably maybe 30%, there's a tremendous amount of industry folks that stay in the same industry in the same state of Florida, and it's nice. It was always nice for me to tell people where I'm at. They'd say, "Oh, you're at PGA," and then to have that instant recognition that we like PGA. It would be more difficult if they would, give me a different, reaction. But
Yeah, we don't want you to have to overcome that.
It's always been a good reaction.
Yeah.
Because you guys were sort of like the folks that people are trying to figure out, well, why do you keep winning these big contracts here? So it's been good. My guys, they never wavered. And like you said, when it was even considered this acquisition, they wanted to know why. And I explained to them, I says, the reality is I can only do so much, and I'm just being worn out by keeping up with regulation, because we actually had full benefits. It's a lot to run back of the house, and I didn't have an admin staff, so it was basically me. So they knew that. They knew how many hours I was working. I was showing up less in the field, and now I'm able to do more of that work that I really like doing, which is staying more involved in the technical stuff and the business development.
Yeah, which is what we talked about.
Yeah,
4 years ago.
That was the plan.
4 years ago. So you talked some about kind of where we're at today. getting more into this cross-selling. We started a CEI group after we brought you guys on, right? It was about the same
Just
time,
before.
I guess. I guess it's kind of the same time, but you obviously brought backlog with you and momentum, and we were just getting going on the CEI group. That turned into cross-selling as we were able to win a CEI, a prime CEI
First
project.
year. Yeah. That's
And then most recently, you actually approached me and said, "Hey, I don't want to report to you anymore. I want to report to Austin of the Civil Site Group," which is a great idea because the site group certainly Austin joined after you joined, so that's a fairly new group for us, focusing primarily on private clients. More vertical, which that was the crossing that you saw is, hey, I bet he has a lot of the same clients that I have.
right.
We should just be working together more often. And I think I got like 14 reports, so I was more than happy to, even though it took me forever to do it. But that's where we're at now, and it makes a lot of sense. And I know you guys are already enjoying some
Yes.
synergy and getting a lot of that accomplished.
Yes.
So maybe talk a little bit more about that if you got anything else to say, and then tell us a little bit more about what's next.
Well, the civil group, sort of us merging, or even though we're still a separate group, but the idea of having a engineer like Austin with his experience and and the work that they do, it actually did overlay a little bit, even though he's more subgrade or site work. But in our business, even below grade requires waterproofing. So, he immediately understood some of the technical dynamics that we deal with, but also having more of an intimate contact with the work we do with a professional engineer like Austin, it's going to benefit us, and it's going to benefit my young engineers that want to ultimately become a professional engineer. So they're actually working below, a professional engineer, which, we have Russ, and Russ is, his technical strength is strong, but he's mostly at DOT. So he's not, the engineers that we want to have their PE can't really say that they work directly below or under the supervision of an engineer. So this made sense to me to merge that, the two groups, and to cross sell. We could have probably done the same thing with CEI. It just happened to be Austin in the Carrollwood office right there, so it made a lot of sense.
Yep.
But I do really enjoy the CEI guys that we've got going on in Sarasota. I think Sarasota's a great spot. We've already won a couple of jobs in Sarasota on the private sector, and I'm hoping that we're gonna to win a CEI job that's that we've put in for in Sarasota. So that's an exciting market.
All right. Well, as we close, maybe cast the vision of growth of facilities preservation. So we got coatings and stuff, but we also have building envelope, and cast that 5 to 10 year vision out, and then we'll look back in 5 to 10 years and we'll see how you did.
All right. Well, the vision is to grow uniformly on both building envelope or building sciences and DOT. The problem with that is that they both tend to, one's more active than the other. So I'm still going to have to do what my philosophy was to cross train everybody. I've never had the luxury of having a person only do bridge painting or tank linings. You have to be able to understand construction and vertical construction. You have to understand roofing and building envelope and window testing. So I think the ultimate goal would be that all of these people that can do both of these roles, we would bring in even more work where we actually might be able to specialize and have a guy that doesn't know about a building, and he only knows about a bridge or a water storage tank. So our goal is to double our staff in the next 1 to 2 years, and you can hold me to it.
All right. Well, I really appreciated you being here and talking through some of these things. You're our one and only acquisition. I think it's been a huge success. We've got the blueprint for how we want future acquisitions to go. That's for sure. And for those of you listening, want to know more about what Kevin's group does, go check out our website, give him a call. He'll tell you all about it. And we appreciate you checking out PGA's Breaking the Ice podcast, and we'll see you next time. On the count of three. Ready?
Right.
1, 2,
1, 2, 3.
Go
Go
PGA.